Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another coffee rant with Dano. Tonight we are drinking Dunkin' coffee. If you have to get your coffee together, hit pause now, or whatever beverage you deem necessary. Hit pause, come back after you have done that. Guys, we got some things to talk about tonight. We got events going on. We have different things going on that we need to pay attention to. If you're preparing for a long winter, you probably should be, because things just keep going on. All these recalls, cyber attacks, looming wars across the world right now, guys. We need to pay attention. We need to make sure that we are stocking up on things that we need. Guys, you keep hearing it. You keep hearing it. You keep hearing about bank issues. Which banks? Yeah, I don't know. We keep hearing of all these different cyber attacks. I was watching a lady on YouTube today, and she has a brain tumor. Now, she had it removed successfully. It was a good story. But the thing that made her nervous was going into the hospital, and she's from Ireland. I don't know if anybody else has seen this video. It popped up in my feed, so I watched it. And right as she was going to the hospital, there was a cyber attack on the hospital in Ireland. Now, this was a few weeks ago. I think it was mid-November that this happened. And awesome, she had a successful surgery and all that. But guys, it just kind of reminded me that, you know what, we need to make sure that we're playing things close to where we are. Make sure you have some extra cash, right? Make sure you have some extra cash. With all these different talks of banks having problems, different cyber attacks on different things, water systems. There's a cyber attack in Texas that we covered, last week. Just seems like these are everywhere. And when they start getting into hospitals, different ransomwares and stuff like that, they start getting into hospitals and banks and things like this. It creates quite a problem. You add all the stuff going on overseas, the different conflicts that we're seeing in the Middle East and abroad. It's rough times. It's crazy times. That's why we always talk about being prepared on the channel. Make sure that you have at least a stockpile of food that will get you through a month, at least. At least. I know some people say a month isn't enough. I probably agree with you, but at least if we are in the mind to stretch it out for a month, we can ration things and make it go further than that. Now, I always hate being the bearer of bad news of these things, because it's not really who I am, but I feel like it's kind of my job to bring this news across as much as possible so that people are listening and understanding. We have so many different things going on, from the cantaloupe scare, right? 8 people dead, and this is something I went over yesterday. Hundreds sick, right? And I understand that this happens, okay? These kind of things are happening way too much, though. We are seeing recalls on an everyday basis. We're seeing train derailments on an everyday basis. There might be one going on right now as we speak. Who knows? I know, and I've said this in other videos, but we're getting a lot of new viewers. So let me remind you that when I was covering the East Palestine train derailment, there was one that was happening right as I was doing that video. I couldn't believe it. 1,700 train derailments so far this year, and there's probably more. That was the last time that I looked it up, and that was a couple weeks ago. So I'm sure there's been a few since then. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It's sad when things happen so fast and so much that you pretty much can say anything. You pretty much say, well, okay, it's probably happening now. Then the odds are pretty good that there's another train derailment today or yesterday or day before. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But guys, I kind of wanted to go over a couple things today, just to make sure to talk about different preparedness items that we always talk about on the channel, but, just some things to throw in mind. We're going into winter here. We're going into winter. If there's a situation where the power goes out for whatever reason, whether that be a storm or some kind of attack, cyber attack, something, EMP, You know, who knows these days? Who knows? But you know what? The knowing that this is a possibility of even happening is the knowing that I know that I need to make sure that I'm prepared for these kind of situations. Now, how do you prepare for something like that? I don't really know how you prepare. You just have to think, well, what special skills do I have? Right? That's what I always ask myself. You know, I like to fish. You know, buying up batteries. The first thing I would think of is that if power goes out, what are you going to need? Well, you're going to want some light. So you may want to buy up some extra batteries. Maybe those little lights that you crank, you know, so that you don't have to use batteries. We have a lot of, you know, people on the channel here that are always giving great information on things to stock up on, these kind of things. Solar lights, right? Anything that's solar powered that you can keep out during the day, maybe bring inside at night. Very smart things. We keep hearing about these things, guys, and I'll tell you what, it's like I know that I myself have fallen down the rabbit hole of the internet as well as a lot of other people. But a lot of this stuff I don't see people talking about. Are we just going to wait around like for something that, you know, I feel like eventually something is going to, if it hasn't affected you yet, I feel like one day it will, all of us, hopefully not. But it's good to be prepared no matter what. These are dark times ahead, guys, and there is no way to sugarcoat that. No way to sugarcoat that. We need to make sure that while the holiday season is here, that we're taking advantage of some of these deals in the stores, making sure that some of these sales that we see, we're stocking up on some of these things. Whether that's meats, canned goods, whatever it is, whatever you feel, you know, if you have a deep freezer and you want to stockpile it with microwave meals. And yeah, that's something to think about too, because obviously if the power goes out, you're going to need a way to keep it cool. Might be a good idea to have some coolers around too. I have a huge cooler. I have a couple of them, you know, and if something like that ever does happen, I'm racing to all the stores to get as much ice as I can. Good to have a generator. Great, good to have a generator. Can solve all those problems. A good one. And, you know, I feel like they're not as expensive as they used to be. They're still expensive, but I feel like there's some out there that are a lot cheaper. But, you know, these are the things that we keep seeing. We see all the scary things on the news, right? The things that we know that are happening are the things that we are basically hearing from people like you and me. We had some different viewers that were in northern Texas where the whole water thing was in effect, right? Different issues with that. We've had viewers from who've had issues with different, you know, cyber attacks and things affecting them. Seems like something that's happening more and more. We need to pay attention, make sure that we at least have some things. If there are things happening with some of the banks, okay, I say that if lightly, okay, if there are, which, I mean, there's stories on a lot of this stuff, things that, you know, some of these things, if you do research on them, you know, it's like, well, yeah, there was an issue here, they fixed it. There was an issue here, they fixed it. So it's like, I don't want to say some of these things and some of these different banks that some of this stuff has happened to, especially if we know that it's been fixed, because I don't want to scare anybody. However, I will say it's a good idea to maybe have a safe, have some cash on hand in case something like this does happen to you. Something happens to your bank account, well, then you have cash. I think one of the big things that's wrong with the country is, you know, we are, obviously our dollar seems to be going down the toilet, okay? And I don't even want to get into how the dollar can be saved because that's not pretty either. But, you know, it's just something that, you know, we get a lot of comments on these things, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it today. The cyber attacks, ransomwares, those things, those are no joke. And as to where, and you keep hearing like a lot of our different schools, a lot of our different colleges, that's a big thing now. Cybersecurity. That's awesome. That's awesome. We need more students that are very smart in these ways, that are good at mathematics. I could never get into something like that. I don't know. I'd be too afraid I'd mess something up. I probably would. But these are things that we need to pay attention to moving forward because they are in the news a lot. And as to where I hate watching the news, probably like most of you, I feel like for some things today, it is very important, especially for things that are going on overseas, things with the Middle East. It seems like every day we get more and more involved in a lot of these different things. And the more we get involved is the more and more heartache it's going to cause. And the closer we become to getting fully engaged in all of this. And that is not what I want. That should not be what you want. Our thoughts and prayers are with all the soldiers that protect our country. I'm a true American. I'm a patriot. I love my country. I do. And I want to make sure that they are protected, their families are protected, and I want to make sure we're protecting our land. And it's, for people to be able to disrupt things the way things are done these days, it's just, wow. We need a better way to protect our cybersecurity and things like that, our infrastructure. All of these things, we've heard of different things, of ways to protect from a electromagnetic pulse, right? Different things that can come shoot over the sky. We know that we can build things to protect us from that, right? We know that that is a possibility, that not a possibility. We know that that can be done. That money is an issue of why it's not. That needs to get done. It could be getting done, honestly. I hope so. I hope the better people and the smarter minds out there are working on these kind of things and getting it done, no matter what the cost. We're spending money on everything else. Why can't we spend money on protecting us from an electrical power outage? Grid Down, Power Up is a video that I watched with Dennis Quaid as the narrator. It's a very interesting video. I would check that out. Grid Down, Power Up it's an amazing kind of documentary on different things going on and how we are really not protected in a lot of parts of the country. We need to get there. Like I said, we're spending money on everything else. Why are we not spending money on this? Now, we could be in some ways or in some factors. Who's talking about it? Nobody's talking about it, right? We got roads out here that need to get fixed, that have needed to get fixed for years. They're not fixing the roads, but they're fixing a sidewalk that seemed just fine before they... I know, I'm kind of going off on something. How many people see that, though? It's like you have a road that's been warped and busted up for years, and then you see the construction crews come in and fix a sidewalk that didn't really need it. Maybe it did. I don't know. But, these kind of things we need to pay attention to, and this is all about preparedness here on the channel. We need to make sure that we're thinking outside the box on some of these things, which thinking outside the box is thinking in reality of these days as well. Now, as to where I hate bringing across some of this negative information, it's, in a way, it's positive because I'm just trying to relay this to everyone so that they know. We have a huge following on our channel here and want to make sure that we're putting this stuff out here to make sure that, when we talk about some of these things, for one, you understand what we're talking about, and for two, we want to make sure that we are prepared for anything. Can you be prepared for anything? Absolutely not. Can you make yourself a little more not nerve-wracking when something happens if you're a little prepared? Absolutely. Right? And these are just some of the things that we need to, again, pay attention to. Watch some of the different world news networks, see what's going on, search around, and I'm guilty of it. I kind of, I search around to where, it hurts my brain. But, I want to make sure that if something goes off, right, I'm ready for it. Or at least I got time to call my loved ones, say a prayer, these kind of things. And if that's the case, well, I guess doesn't really matter what we do anyway. But at least for what we can handle, for what we are right now, we can do it. We can make sure that we're at least as prepared as possible for what situation may or may never come. I want to show you an interesting book I got from Aldi, and this is the Historical Atlas of World War II. Okay? Now, I've been kind of skimming through this and looking through, seeing how some of the... I love history. I do. I love history. I love history of World War II because of the strategicness in it. There's a lot of things that went on in World War II that kind of seemed like a major chess game. Everything with Hitler and how he... I don't want to say he was genius because obviously his plan didn't work. Um, but there's a lot of things in here. When you map things out and you start looking at how this was breaking down, I'll tell you what, the guy was serious. And if we have modern day enemies like this, I'm not talking about anybody, no names or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, if somebody was to follow some of these paths as we did in World War II, this could be absolutely devastating. Because now there's the tools and the technology that could make this a living nightmare. And I mean, it already is. It already is. But I'll tell you what, this was a really interesting book that gives all the different graphs, how many they were putting up numbers on different soldiers. And mind you, World War II, technology was still, I mean, some of the stuff today we aren't much better at than we were back then. But a lot of the stuff that is done on computers now, of course, you got people that can hack those computers, you're in trouble, and that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of this stuff was, when you really start to look at it, how these different wars or how these different battles were broken down, it's like most of these people knew how many soldiers they were going to lose before the battle even happened. That is absolutely a chess game. And if you're a good chess player, your opponent, you're ahead of your opponent by a couple moves. I used to love chess. I don't really have anybody to play with anymore. Nobody wants to play. But that is one thing I can say that I get out a lot of about this book of World War II, is that it was one big chess match. There was a lot of math going on. How many people are we going to lose? What are we going to gain? What are we going to gain from this? How is this going to be a strategic takeover once we do? It's really interesting, and I kind of see history repeating itself now. I mean, we're seeing things happen with Russia and Ukraine. I mean, it's not even a war of attrition. If anybody thinks otherwise, you're wrong. I mean, it just, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of like math to figure it all out. To figure out that it just seems like it was a lost cause from the beginning. Most war can look that way. Most wars can look that way. Because if there's no gaining in it, or if there's no protection, or if there's no peace at the end, then there's no right of war. If I hope I said that right. But with a lot of the different things that I have been reading in this book, I see like the same kind of deals happening. I see the same trade-offs in different parts of the world with different wars going on, right? I'm not saying anything about sides or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, a lot of these kind of layouts of what's going on now with Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East, a lot of this has been done in the past. And it's been done at I would say, a more graphic level, right? Not graphic level. I mean, like, a more drawn out level back then than what it is now, right? You had to strategically put pieces in areas back then, as you do that now, but now everybody just has so many different buttons they can push that I feel like it's simpler. And when it becomes simpler, it becomes more dangerous, right? We get somebody with an itchy trigger finger. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of give my little take on that real quick. I do love history. I love, this book is very interesting. I love and hate this book. I hate that it's all about how the wars were won and destroyed. But I do appreciate, for one, the art that this person put into this book. It's called The Historical Atlas of World War II. If you have an Ollie's, they have it there. It is $9.99. $9.99, and it goes through the entire World War II. So it's an it's an interesting read as well, because it breaks down like each battle, where the battle happened, how soldiers were placed, everything. everything. It's like the entire war on a map, several times. I mean, it's a big book. But anyway, guys, just just throwing that out there. We never know what's going to happen in life. We have to live life every day. We have to appreciate what we do have. We have to appreciate our soldiers and be there for them. And just make sure we just have to pay attention to everything going on. I will leave it at that. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I know that it's kind of I don't want it to sound depressing or any of these things. I want you to be aware. I want this to be a message of awareness and preparedness. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.